and this is Choices from Struggle to Strength. And today I am very pleased to have Tereza Roux with us. Welcome, Tereza.
Hello, Ruth. Thank you so much for having me on your show, on your podcast. I learned from a very, very wise person. If every day you wake up and you start the day better and better, then it just 1% every little bit, every day.
That's great. I start my day with writing down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for, and that has made a huge difference in my life. So similar.
I know exactly what you mean. It's gratitude. It starts your day off so beautifully.
It really does. So Tereza, tell us what you are passionate about and why.
Absolutely. As we met organically through another Twitter space, I'm passionate about people. I am passionate about the love for oneself, for family, friends, community, which then extends out globally. I think every one of us has a light to shine. And as we were just talking about, every person's story is unique and worth extolling to the world, because there's so many people that can not only learn, but then build upon it. Mm-hmm. In career, my passion is wine, food, hospitality, and again, the power of positivity, conquering those, as you were just saying, when we were chatting earlier, the challenging times that come upon us. So that my interest really is in how we can add, or how I can add to a person's day, how I can add to a person's company, or just be. So those are my passions, along with arts and culture and travel and many, many other things.
It sounds like you're like me, multi-passionate, and sometimes it's hard to know what to focus on, isn't it?
Absolutely. We have chapters.
We do. We can't do everything at once, but we can enjoy a variety. And it's wonderful that we can go from one passion to another and enjoy so many things.
Yes, that's very true.
So share a bit about your story and the difficult event or events that you have experienced.
Okay. Well, for me, I knew at 16 that I was in grade 11, and I was an only child, and wanted a family, and was kind of told, well, are you going to work, or are you going to stay at home and raise children? And my grandfather, whom I love dearly, and my grandparents raised me more than my mom, although my mom is a phenomenal one and mother. And so when I was 16, I was taking accounting 11, or actually, pardon me, I was 15, because I was in grade 10, taking accounting 11. Thought, okay, I can become an accountant. I can have babies. I can work from home. I can have it all.
Right.
I was, so I fast forwarded, and I was working at 21 in a law firm in Vancouver. I was married with a 4.5-year-old stepdaughter, owned a house, owned cars, owned a boat. Life took some turns, and that marriage dissolved. That job dissolved. Recession, in terms of, it was the early 90s. So recession really wasn't the word bandied about, but it was law firms all of a sudden were amalgamating. And so the large law firms were, doing well. And yet even the large law firms, mid to large size, they were really kind of tightening their belts, similar to what we're seeing now. And so fast forward through all of that, I'm now 30, still in accounting. I had planned to be a CGA. I had planned all of these things, and I wasn't fulfilled.
Mm.
Took a trip to Europe, fell in love with everything about it. History, real estate, wine. Came back to BC, where I live in Victoria at the time,
Mm-hmm.
on Vancouver Island. And long story short, I realized I felt chained to a desk.
Mm.
That was where my struggle was I was unfulfilled. Here I was, I'd spent almost half my life in a career doing what the world says you're supposed to do and all that, but didn't have my passion. Wasn't feeling like I was successful, wasn't feeling like I was fitting into the mold and all that. So progress has a funny way of twists and turns. The wine industry in BC was very, very young, 70 wineries only in British Columbia. We were just dipping our toe into the world of wine on the global stage. And I thrive on challenge. So from that struggle, I actually found a new career. I may minimize it by way of having a smile on my face through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet as a woman, as a person, it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Depression, loneliness, failure, all those things I went through. And then to restart and to start a new career with not knowing a person was a struggle in itself. So those are my two struggles, but they really are one in the fact
Intertwined.
of intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So was there a particular time when you were going through the breakup of your marriage and the dissatisfaction with your job and wondering if life was worth living and where you should go next? Was there a particular time when you knew you had to make a choice and move forward?
Yes. And it's most people that have gone through things, they say that, we make choices. There's people who are my mentors, and they're like, we can make a choice at any time.
Yep.
Usually the choice is when you have either hit rock bottom or you feel though you have.
Right.
And it's, in times of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't share this often, and yet this is what this space is all about, right, and what your podcast is all about. I was in an abusive marriage, and admitting that was not only challenging, but admitting that it was my responsibility to myself of when do I value myself? And that began the long journey that we all go through. So it definitely, I've had times where I have really, really wondered, what if, and that's just it. I from all that, I was like, what is, not what if, which is what then strengthened and got the fire in my belly and the phoenix rising out of the ashes.
Well, I can identify with a lot of what you said. I was in an abusive marriage too, so I understand. And it takes a lot of strength to stand up for ourselves, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Absolutely. And we come from tribes and we vibe with our tribe. And the best way through the fire, and as we are recreating and all of that, is to be supportive of each other. Right. And it's in the knowing and sharing it. So from one heart to another, you are thriving as well.
It's hard work though, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Daily.
Yes.
Sometimes minute by minute.
Yes. We can make that big choice, but we make smaller choices every day that contribute to that big choice, right?
Yes. And it's the nanoseconds, it's the small choices that are the most important.
Mm-hmm.
And the words that we use, the language that we use to ourselves.
Yes.
We talk so much. We want to be kind to people and, keep calm and carry on and all that. The first relationship is with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not our own best friend, then how and why can we expect or need anyone else to be? And it's the greatest gift we give ourselves, because then it's the greatest gift that we give to everybody else.
It definitely is.
Mm.
So you've touched on this quite a bit, but do you want to share anything else about how your struggles have made you a stronger person?
My struggles have been the impetus for my growth.
Mm.
Failure is the best lesson. I was not taught that failure was okay. And not, I was taught or not.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the way my life was.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to have a narrative. I used to have a story, which really was an excuse or a reason. And I mean that without attaching any negative connotations to either of those words.
Mm-hmm.
So failing up is good.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important to go forward, to do it and take that step, because if we never try, we'll never know. So it's actually now the struggles that I had are my best lessons. I have the love of my life. I actually found love at 50 in COVID. And it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so worth it. He's my greatest champion and my biggest nemesis.
Mm.
Only because he puts a mirror to myself.
Mm.
And therefore, I'm my biggest champion and I'm my biggest nemesis. So that was actually the struggles that I had, was I was fighting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's great freedom that comes from walking the path alone. Mm-hmm. And feeling despair, feeling depression, mm-hmm. and admitting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first step to healing is being honest with ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I did not value myself. Mm-hmm. I for a long time, and even now, it's like you say, it's a day to day. We fall from grace. We're human. Mm-hmm. And in the humanness, the imperfection is what makes us perfect. So I have to say, it's the things that I don't know that are going to happen to me. It's not what happens anymore. It's how I deal with it. And that's a new one. So that's still like being a newborn and not knowing how to navigate it, but knowing that I'm going to figure it out.
Yes, Charles Swindoll has a little article, 10% is what happens to us and 90% is our attitude and how we respond to it. We can't control that 10%, but we have 90% control over our lives.
And that's just it. We are a master of our own destiny. Mm-hmm. We can create, we do create the worlds that we live in, and an attitude of gratitude. I know to some who are listening or will listen, it might ring hollow, or they may be they may not be able to see the forest for the trees quite yet. And that's why you do this, not only this podcast, that's why we have these conversations and people reaching out. I have had a myriad. I have an entire world of people that have held me up and helped me through. And it's really quite incredible, because then you realize, wow, I then when I can do it for someone else, it's tenfold, because then you know, when your heart is full and you can, there's so many people every day. It's the random acts of kindness and the paying it forward. This is the evolution that we're going through, even in any of the most challenging times. Yeah,
I agree. So let's talk a little bit about that. One of the questions I had asked you to think about was, do you have any advice for people who are going through a similar struggle? But let's talk about the importance of community, and where do you find that support? When you feel like, I don't know what it was like for you, but when I was going through separation and divorce, those feelings of shame, those feelings of, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I needed people, but I also felt like I didn't want anybody to know what I was going through.
Absolutely. And I went through not only exactly that, I had been a person who I hid, quite literally. I ghosted, I felt ashamed. And my grandmother, amazing woman, first audiologist in Ontario, wore pearls with her pants while gardening, before she got married, the love of her life, drank beer and smoked cigars and all that. And then she met the love of her life and had a family and all of that. I learned to just be. And in fact, it was my female tribe. It's in those days when you are getting to know someone and they click, kind of like you and I did, where it resonates, and there's a frequency that you feel comfortable. What got me through was friends who said, I support you. I may not agree with everything, or it's your choice, or finding people who lift you up without while still holding you accountable.
Right.
That was, and again, not easy. A few and far between. Quality over quantity in my world. I have many acquaintances. I have few close friends, and I love them all, whether they are speaking to me or not. That was how I got through it. And then now, because just recently I went through a year of some of the biggest struggle I've gone through in my career, my present career, my just my whole world of who am I, what do I do? And a very dear friend, she said, when something good happens, tell us about it. Be happy about it. And she said, and when something bad happens, she said, tell us about it. And I was like, communication, authentic communication, because we are all on frequencies. And yet, if we don't utilize our words, if we don't open up to the people that care about us the most and just want to be there sometimes. So I used to hermit, and it took me a long time to get to where I'm at, whereas I might have gotten there in a quarter of the time. That being said, it's what is, not what if. So
Right.
all the people have brought me to where I am.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about the people in your community. They don't necessarily all agree with you,
Mhm.
but they are supporting you. They're there for you. And I think sometimes we make a mistake. We think that we need to surround ourselves with people that will just agree with us all the time. But we are stronger when we have those people that will disagree with us and make us think about decisions that we're making, because that when we have those decisions in front of us, if we can think about it from different angles, we make better choices.
We very much do. It's like the sun and all of the rays of sun that emanate out. It's it emanates back into you as well when you have all of those other and diverse opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Diverse culture is having discourse. It's okay to be on opposite sides, or however, respecting someone's choices for them,
Mm-hmm.
and debate. I'm really all about having interesting discourse. And it truly is, it comes back to the people in my tribe that have pointed out aspects of my personality, aspects of my life or choices.
Mm-hmm.
They're my biggest blessing.
Mm-hmm. Those
Biggest
are gems.
They are worth their weight in gold, and I love them all.
Yes, that's one thing that has concerned me in the last couple of years, is that people don't seem to be able to have those respectful conversations when there's two different or three different ideas in the room. It seems like, if you don't agree with me, I don't want to be your friend. And we miss out on a lot when we do that.
We do. And again, I think that it goes back to a few things. We are living in the time period we are, and I can be all pie in the sky, and I can come from a place of positivity all day long, and yet the reality is every single one of us is facing a world that is unique to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we're doing well,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of challenges that have come out of the last from 2008 even,
Mm-hmm.
but especially these last 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I find, I'm just trying to bring it back to my thread, because again, there's so much to talk about, and to be real about.
Mm-hmm.
I love what I do, and yet, is it easy? Sometimes. Is it easy? Oh no, I hustle. It's working in the hospitality industry and seeing what people have gone through, and yet I was thriving in my own kind of world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying in the industry: we're always gliding along like a swan or a duck.
Mm.
We're gliding along, and underneath the water, our feet are just pedaling away. And I think that's all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's again, being honest about the fact that, hey, today's not the greatest day.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you can kind of, again, I try and sit in grace. I now go to, well, imagine that it is the best day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I may have gotten off topic. I love going down rivers.
Yes, it's easy to go down those rabbit trails or rivers or whatever you want to call them.
So I'm mindful of sometimes and this is the great thing about learning about ourselves, from struggle to strength, is catching oneself and going, let's bring it back.
Let's focus. That's one of the hardest things, I think, for entrepreneurs and multi-passionate people. Those shiny objects.
I was distracted. Yes, I was just gonna say shiny thing. Yes. So community, the community has never been more important because of all the things that I just said. And that's where I really believe local with the understanding of global. We're connected. So on any given day, I'm speaking with people in 10 different countries at least, and I'm loving it. And yet it's the local farmers market that I go to. It's the BC winery that I'm focusing on, that I'm doing a wine pairing for. It's my neighbor whose kids broke their arm. That's when that is the true small things that we do. The coffee shop we go to, the routes we take, all of that, making sure we call our mom or dad or friend if if our parents aren't there anymore, all of that. So again, people, connectivity, and in real time.
Yes, that's so important, because it's easy we can isolate in many different ways. We can be connected globally on Twitter Spaces and not talk to our neighbor. So we need both.
We do need both. If COVID taught us nothing else, like, we thrive on interaction, and the skin is the largest organism. We need touch, we need hugs, we need this, and we need it both in digital and analog. And I believe one of the best gifts that we have been given, because we can look at it any way we want, COVID taught us what we're blessed with, and how easy it is. I know my neighbors more than I've lived in my building 10 years. And I know them intimately, and we have fun and puzzles. I used to do puzzles when I was a child with my grandparents, and Chinese checkers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's whatever one's passion is, coming back to find your passion and live it and love it, because it's yours, and other people want to not only know it, but then I love getting to know other people's passion. Right. I talk a lot, but
I love community.
That's just it. Community is the way. Right. I'm just a big proponent, again, because I'm in the hospitality industry and food. We break bread. Food is how we come together.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
When I was stuck, I felt alone. So for anyone who's stuck, to know that they're not alone, and to know that it's completely not only normal, it's also, though, reach out in whatever small way, because we are all here. And I'm a light bringer. I love helping people. I love lifting people up, and so many people have lifted me up for starting over, because many are starting over, new job, new life, new expenses. There is always enough. There's always a way. I've recently gone through where I put myself in a pickle, and there's always answers.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to ask
Mm-hmm.
and know. It's it's easy to say, but my faith is strong,
Mm-hmm.
and my tribe is strong. So and for anyone that is out there and that wants or needs something, then I'm there in whatever small way I can. I'm just forming a few with regards to the Twitter space you and I had met on, and so I have to follow up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I get them going, there's great opportunities with all of them. Then I can look and see who else can I help, and who else can I bring along and lift up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want people to know.
Okay.
There's always people, and I'm been so blessed to have people along the way, so I get to pay it forward now.
I second that. What's the best way for people to connect with you, Teresa?
I am on LinkedIn, quite honestly, a lot. And here on Twitter, it's very interesting with Twitter space. I'm going to be co-hosting. I am creating a Twitter space. So my name, Tereza Roux on Twitter. And because I found LinkedIn to be a very good business community globally for me. And it may or may not work for everyone. I will have my website up, which will be virtualwineconcierge.com. People can message me and I will get back to them within 1 day maximum.
Well, thanks for joining us today and for sharing some of the lessons that you've learned and your positivity.
Ruth, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting this. Thank you for having me on your podcast. You bring so much positivity and so much to the world. So I'm happy to connect with you, and I look forward to more.
That's great. Me too. Rick Allison said, you can either learn from your own mistakes or from someone else's. So what would you rather do? Would you rather make your own mistakes and waste a lot of time and money and frustration? Or would you rather learn from someone who has made mistakes already and can save you time and money and provide a system and strategies to help you get where you want to go? I am a book coach. I help entrepreneurs write, publish, and profit from their books. And I can help save time, save money, and provide those systems and strategies that you need to get your book written, to get your book published, and to get your book into the hands of people who are waiting for it. If you'd like to learn more, I invite you to sign up for a free strategy session with me. You can find that on my website at ruthlsnyder.com.